Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend a little bit of time talking about cards from Lord of the Rings, the card game. And I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
And I'm Grant Thompson, just along for the ride, and today we'll be talking about the Encounter set, the Wilderlands. So we can find this in the Journey Down the Anduin. We can find it in the Dead Marshes, Return to Mirkwood, and Conflict at the Carrick.
And that's also in the newest Wilds of Rivanion Journey Up the Anduin.
Okay. Well, that's something I didn't know, so let's get to it then. The first card, and probably the biggest one known from the wilds, the Wilderlands, is the Hill Troll, which has a 30 engagement cost, 1 threat, 6 attack, 3 defense, and 9 hit points. And between regular and easy mode, you only put 1 copy of the troll in. Now, who wants to play easy? I say let's take 2. It also has the effect excess combat damage dealt by the Hill Troll. Damage that is dealt beyond the remaining hit points of the character damaged by this attack must be assigned as an increase to your threat. Now, that is a by God awful effect. And it is also worth 4 victory points for those of you who like going to tally up your scores.
Well, it also, because it's a victory card, it gets removed from the discard pile, which is nice.
So, David, what are your thoughts on this beefy troll?
Yeah, so the Hill Troll, I think, is like the stock, the stock boss character, right? The Hill Troll is the card that that you really have to spend your time beating when you first do Journey Along the Anduin. You have to kind of prepare for it. You have to get ready for it. A lot of times you're using Gimli with the Citadel plate so that he can swing at it. But I also think that it's a really well-developed card. The card itself, because it has 6 attack, and there's no such thing as group blocking in Lord of the Rings like there is in some other card games. That 6 attack is totally crazy. Like, there's very few cards out there that can handle 6 attack without having any of that extra attack getting assigned to your threat. And so I know that Gandalf can. Gandalf has a total of 8. He's got 8 defense and 4 he's got 4 hit points and 4 defense points. So he can deal with it. But then he goes, so it's not like you can deal with him all the time.
Baragond?
Yeah, Baragond has 4 defense and 4 hit points.
Points.
But Baragond isn't part of the core set, so people just getting into the game, it's that Hill Troll is the one that really helps you learn how relentless the game is going to be. You learn a lot from that Hill Troll, because how many times does the Hill Troll smash you before you say, okay, I have to figure out a way to deal with this?
Okay, serious question, David.
Okay.
How many times did it kill you before you got past him?
I would say that I feel like it must have been double digits. My friend and I, we kind of got into the game at the same time. He got me into the game, and he said this. He said, the Hill Troll is crazy until you figure out how to get past the Hill Troll, and then it's not so horrible because you kind of prepare for it, you're ready to go, and you do it. But trying to figure out how to get past the Hill Troll is really hard. You have to stall, you have to turtle. They call it turtling, where you stall so that you build up ways to deal with it. You build up chump blockers, you build up, you do threat reduction, whatever it is. that you can do. And that's the other thing. Its engagement cost is 30. So it's going to be really hard for that troll to not come out at some point. You know, like it's unless you purposely do something to mitigate that.
Yeah, I totally agree. But I'm just busy looking at the art of the hill troll. Again, it is another well-designed card. I mean, what struck us was the resemblance between me dad and the hill troll. But no, in all seriousness, it is a powerful card art to do with such a powerful foe. And again, I've just got to put my hands up to Fantasy Flight for developing such an amazing card.
With only one threat, I mean, you can keep it in the staging area for a while. If your threat is lower than 30, you don't have to get it out of the staging area because it's not hurting you in the staging area. And that can be sometimes your method of trying to kill it. Like, I know that you have a Done Here deck where you're attacking things in the staging area, and so that may not. I don't know if Done Here Duck Shoot can duck shoot the hill troll, but you know, I mean, but that's the idea, is that if you can keep it in the staging area, it's not causing you a lot of harm there, and then you could.
The duck shoot works fairly well if you can keep your threat low to begin with. Right. If you get the cards out that you need straight away, you'll kill the hill troll within up to 3 turns. I think the quickest I did it was in a 2-turn, and that's when I had 2 decks correlating to attack the troll. I had my Done Here Duck Shoot, and then I had another one running some Dunedain marks as well, so it just bumped his attack well up, and then within 2 to 3 turns, I knocked out the troll. Right. But but for that, you've got to have things running just right.
This is, I would say, in contrast to the Marsh Hatter, which is the next enemy that I like to talk about out of the Wilderlands, because the Marsh Hatter, not to be confused with the Muck Adder. I hear a lot of people. There's a Marsh Hatter in this encounter set, and then there's a Muck Adder in a different encounter set. But the Marsh Hatter has a threat of 40, so that can stay in the staging area for a long time. But it has a threat of 3, so when you're in when you have 3 threat in the staging area, that's a bigger concern. And then an attack of 4, which is okay in terms of being beefy. Defensive 1, which is nothing because it's a snake. You know, I mean, it's a really big snake, but it's a snake nonetheless. And then it's got 7 hit points. So that Marsh Adder is pretty. If you have a Marsh Adder and a hill troll out, it can be pretty damaging, and it can be hard to deal with. The fact that you have to raise your threat every time the Marsh Adder attacks, that can be a pain in the neck. But that Marsh Adder, I think, is more of a pain in the neck when it stays in the staging area all the time.
Yeah, I've got to admit that threat gain from his attack can be a bit problematic. But I was just looking, something I hadn't noticed was the quote underneath. Under the bow of Mirkwood, there was deadly strife of elves, men, and fell beasts. Now, just look at the artwork. That quote really does sum up the Muck Adder, the Marsh Adder, sorry. I will get my words right. But look at that tongue as well. It looks like it just wants to come and gobble you up, doesn't it?
It does.
But yeah, 4 attack, he's not the hardest enemy to kill. He's probably on the same, for me, he's on the same level as the Ungolian Spawn. He's annoying, he's not a problem. Kill him if you can, doesn't matter if you don't. Only difference is he's worth a few victory points.
Yeah, and the other thing about this guy is that if he comes out, there's a lot of there's more enemies in this encounter set than some of the other previous ones that we've talked about, and so because there's more enemies, it's possible that you're going to have to make that choice. Do I engage, the hill troll, or do I engage some other enemy? or do I engage the Marsh Adder and keep him in there and get that 3 threat every turn? And that's the thing that the game forces you to do, is it forces you to make decisions about what you're going to do and where you're going to be successful and where you have to kind of give up being successful in order to try to win the game.
The next one I want to talk about is probably the most pain in the backside cards in this encounter set. It's the Wolf Rider.
Okay.
And for a 10 engagement, 1 threat, 2 attack, 0 defense, and 2 hit points, it's easy enough to kill. But my god, does it have a pain in the backside shadow effect. Not only does it surge when it comes out, but its shadow effect, Wolf Rider attacks the defending player. That player may declare 1 character as a defender, deal Wolf Rider its own shadow card after combat, and return Wolf Rider to the top of the encounter deck after combat. That in itself is a pain. If you cannot kill it. Yeah. If you've committed everybody to defend, it is a pain.
Yeah, I never really think about the Wolf Rider. For me, I don't ever... The problem that I have is that keyword surge. Every time I'm playing this game, the surge keyword drives me nuts. I don't care what card it is, what I'm looking at, what I'm doing. The surge drives me batty, which means it's probably a good keyword. I'm not the card itself, and then the shadow effect. I don't have any feels about it. It is what it is. It's not. I don't even think it's a pain for me for the way that I play. I just deal with it. But the card that
there is one card that I have never used that I should take there. The Minas Tirith Lamprite.
Yeah.
I have never once used this card. And I think it's a bit of a Hail Mary to put in for something. It's like, yeah, I'm throwing all the cards on the table for that surge. I'm here.
Yeah, and that the Minas Tirith Lamprite doesn't even negate the surge. It just, I mean, it, like you said, it's a Hail Mary, but it doesn't do anything to the card that you just brought out that had the surge on it. It just
it just cancels the surged card if you name it right.
Yeah, right. Which is, yeah.
If it's a treachery that's brought out, it cancels, and you name treachery, it cancels the treachery. If it's an enemy, you discard the enemy. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's a Hail Mary pass.
Right. Unless you have cards that can look at the top card of the encounter set or something.
Now, who would run something like the what is it? The Hymn and Moth River Song or
yeah.
Denethor?
Denethor, right? I don't know. The thing that I find to be more of a pain in the neck than the Wolf Rider is the Wargs, because you engage the Wargs and they're beefier, and then if it gets a shadow card that doesn't have a shadow effect, it disappears on you, and so it's like they're slippery little buggers that you can't do anything with. You can't, like, I've had the Wargs come out, and there's 2 copies in this encounter set. I've had the Wargs come out and then just stay and then go back and forth in the staging area without me ever giving any sort of damage to it. And it comes to a point where these guys have been out so long that I just try to evaporate them with Gandalf, which I guess is thematic in the way that it plays out in the Hobbit. But it's just that the Wargs are definitely, for me, more annoying than the Wolf Rider is.
I'd agree with that, but that's when my Dunhea Duckshoots shows it shines its love.
Yeah, right. And that's
just ping.
Right, and that's the beauty of this game, is that everybody has different playing styles, and so the cards that you find annoying may not be the same cards that I find annoying, and that's okay.
There's only 1 treachery in this encounter deck, and it's when revealed effect isn't that bad. It's a shadow effect that I found more than a problematic. And it's called Despair. Now, when revealed, remove 4 progress tokens from the current quest card. If there are fewer than 4 tokens on the quest card, remove all progress tokens from that quest. That's nothing.
Right.
But it's shadow effect. Defending character does not count defense.
Right.
Who comes up with this?
I know.
It's
Right.
madness.
There was a poll on the forums that was like, what's your least favorite shadow effect? And that was on the top of the list. It was like, doesn't count its defense. What do you mean? But I have Baragond. So now Baragon's going to get killed because he has 4 defense, and he had 2 damage, so he only has 2 hit points left, so now I'm going to lose a hero? That's totally ridiculous. But that's the way the game does, and I like that it's called Despair. The card is called Despair because it synergizes with how I feel when I have to remove 4 progress from the current quest. When I'm doing Conflict at the Karok and I'm trying to get through that last stage, and all of a sudden I lose 4 progress on that, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And I feel despair. If it comes off early game, it's really nice because it doesn't say if there's no progress removed, it gains surge, which was something that the game makers put in later. But yeah, and that shadow
Don't
effect.
give them ideas to buff this card. It is already too despairing.
Yeah, it's totally crazy.
That artwork also depicts a lot of despair. Look at that. I think it's a hobbit tracking through, but it's the look of sheer despair on his face.
Yeah. Totally. I was just going to talk about the lands really quick, because the lands,
Go on, then.
the 2 locations, I feel like the 2 locations are kind of opposites of each other. The East Bight, where that's the land that totally sucks because you have to travel to it, and it has such a high travel cost. Not travel cost, but quest points. It has 6 quest points, and so that really slows you down. But that's what the East Bight does in real life, but in the lore of the game, that's what the East Bight does, is it slows you down. It makes you not get through your quest fast enough. The fact that it only has 1 threat is fine, but you have to travel there, so it's not going to stick around. But then the Brownlands is just the opposite. It has 5 threat and only 1 travel point, and it evaporates as soon as you travel to it. So it's kind of meant to be in the staging area for a little bit. And that card is killer, especially at the very beginning of the game when you're just trying to figure it out, because there's not a single other encounter card that has 5 threat cost. 5 threat cost is the most in the deck or in the encounter set up to this point, and that's maybe the most, or at least high. There's some in the sagas that can get up to 10 or 12 or something because of it's got an X there and things like that. But the point is that the Brownlands for me are killer when they get peeled off the deck, and I'm just glad that neither of them have a shadow effect, just because it's because I can't imagine what it would be like.
Yeah, I'd agree with that one. The Brownlands, for me, are ideal for if you've still got ready your Riddermark's Finest or your Asphalot. Soon as they come out, then trigger them to remove that progress, remove it from the staging area, because that can just make your threat. You could have made 2 progress. You now increase your threat by 3.
Right.
But no, other than that, there's not much to say on the locations. They slow you down, which isn't exactly what they were designed for. There's 2 copies of each of them in this set, but they just slow you down. One makes you travel to it and just slows you down with the amount of progress. The other one just bungs up the staging area and increases threat.
I think there's only one more card in the encounter set, and that's the
Goblin Sniper.
The Goblin Sniper, which was
the
archery card before archery became a keyword for the encounter cards, right?
That is correct. 48 engagement, 2 threat, 2 attack, 0 defense, 2 hit points. During the encounter phase, players cannot optionally engage Goblin Sniper if there are no enemies in play. Cannot optionally engage Goblin Sniper if there are other enemies in the staging area. Forced, if Goblin Sniper is in the staging area at the end of the combat phase, each player deals 1 point of damage to a character he controls. Another great done here / Haldia fodder card.
Yeah. I find this card annoying, but not horrible. If there's two, I think there's 2 copies of the card in the encounter sec. So when
that is correct.
So when there's 2 out in the staging area, it can become annoying, because you can't engage them if you're engaged with another enemy. If you're trying to ward off the hill troll, or you have the Marsh Adder there, it becomes kind of a pain in the neck. Or if you're playing conflict at the Karok and you have the 4 trolls out there that you're trying to pummel, and this guy comes out, it's it does add up, but I find it more annoying than I do really really hard to deal with or anything like that.
Yeah, it's just annoying. Most of the time, you just leave it sitting there and you just place the damage on your allies.
Yeah.
If you've got no way of engaging it.
I will tell you this. I have the latest expansion, the latest deluxe expansion, Wilds of Romanian, and all the enemies from this make up what they call the Evil Creatures deck. And so when this thing comes up as an evil creature, I'm ecstatic, because I can usually deal with this guy pretty easily. It's when the Hill Troll or 2 copies of the Hill Troll come out with the Marsh Adder, and then I'm like, ugh, that's when I'm upset. But I think that when I'm playing Journey Up the Anduin and I see the Goblin Sniper, I'm usually okay with seeing him.
Yeah, generally speaking, out of all the cards in this counter deck, I think the Goblin Sniper is probably the one people most like to see.
Right. I don't mind seeing the brown lands just because it's so easy to get rid of, but that 5 threat that one time is kind of a pain in the neck. So that's us talking about the Wilderlands and all the cards in that encounter set. You should join us next time for encounter card talk as we talk about Sauron's Reach. Have a great day.